Hello my friends, welcome to Reddit Rabbit. Before we start, catch the rabbit at the bottom right corner, smash that subscribe button and leave a comment. Today I learned 6 Georgia inmates out on work detail saved a deputy sheriff who collapsed unconscious. They could have taken his gun and fled with the work van, but used the deputy's phone to call 911. The sheriff's office gave the men a pizza party with homemade dessert and recommended reduced sentences. I worked in a county jail as a cook. CA. The work detail systems are pretty universal among county jails. These guys are non-violent offenders. Most likely DWI, possession in small amounts, non-payment of traffic fines, etc. These guys aren't interested in escaping. They understand that if they do, they might actually go to prison and do real time. Especially if they took the gun. Also, most of the people there are decent people. So objectively stealing a gun and a van would be bad, but morally they couldn't leave someone to die, get hurt. Also, even more objectively, helping this guy and not escaping makes you look even better as an inmate, thus the possibility of better privileges are increased even more. Frankly, even if you're not a decent person, this is clearly the thing to do. Steal a gun and escape prison, and the chances are you'll get caught and forced to serve not only your original sentence, but also an additional sentence for escaping. Even if you don't get caught, life can't be easy when being too obvious about who you are gets you arrested. Far easier to do the right thing, probably get recommended a reduced sentence as these guys did, and walk out a legally free man. Yet, there's zero chance you're gonna get away. Better to save the guy and get a reduced sentence than drive off in a truck, live in hiding and then go back in with a longer sentence. Also, most of the people there are decent people. Law equals morality. Even serious offenders can be decent people, but some people don't seem to get that. Serious offenders? How serious are we talking? In a lot of states, in order to even be on a work detail that leaves a prison, you have to be nearing the end of your term. Most of those guys have months left to go. In my home state, some of those guys show up only on the weekends for work release or community service. They still get the armed escort and everything just like anyone else, still wear the orange vests, the color my home state doc uses. Even though they're not doing time inside, they have to play the part during the community service. In my current state, where my SO is corrections officer, the work release guys are counting down weeks, not years. They don't let anyone out that has any violent crime history or any real time on their sentence. Those that qualify for job programs, but have too much time on their sentence, work inside the facility and are called walkman. So there's not going to be that many people on a work release that are willing to risk themselves more time by running when they've only got weeks to months to go. TV likes to exaggerate that kind of stuff, but in not states they're really not going to have lifers and murderers out and about on a work release. I agree with everything you said. That being said, I did some air conditioning work at a work camp about a year ago. Most of the guys there weren't doing serious time and most went and worked a job every day. When we got to work, we could pull our truck in the gate so that we had access to our tools without having to walk half a mile to the parking lot. Nobody came near the truck and we locked our cell phones in it. But we still kept pocket knives in our pockets and had power tools, with inmates all around us. Then one day we show up and everything had changed. Couldn't bring the truck in. Blah blah blah. All because one dumbass with 3 weeks left to go decided he was going to squeeze out in between the gate that we were using. By the way, this gate was opened and closed every day by a corrections officer. The guy took off in the evening and was arrested again about 3 hours later at his mom's house. There's always some idiot exception to the rules, and some people are available afraid to get out. That part in Shawshank Redemption wasn't really an exaggeration. All it takes is one arsehole to ruin it for everyone. Yeah, but this guy was in his early 20s. He had only been there for like 2 months. I talked to a couple of the officers there about it. They said that even though he really had like 3 weeks to go, he probably would have been out in 5 or 6 days. It was just retarded. He didn't go back to that work camp. He went to a way more serious prison. I've done work at a couple of prisons. In one of the more serious facilities, I saw a really old guy every day and asked a CEO about him. This guy was in his late 80s walking around with a cane, and he had been there since he was 19. There's always one person that likes to ruin it for everyone else. My boyfriend works at a maximum security prison. They have one dorm that's for the minimum guys that are getting out soon, but everything else is for the lifers that'll be there forever, and he's got some old guys in there too. They're medical facilities, so they get a lot of elderly inmates that have medical needs. Saddest thing is some of these guys are in there for things that these days would be a slap on the wrist, but because of the laws back then, some of them are in there for self-defense or defense of a loved one. And some are just assholes. It's a hodgepodge. Today I learned that in Georgia inmates actually use striped uniforms, like cartoons. Lots of jails use striped uniforms. It's really recognizable because of cartoons. A guy in an orange jumpsuit could be confused with a road worker by some idiots. Nobody wears a striped uniform, but a prisoner. At the jail I work at, an inmate saved one of the teachers from being raped. The rapist grabbed her and dragged her into the bathroom. The other inmate saw it and beat the rapist's ass. The raper got 25 extra years and the hero inmate got let out 5 years early, which I think is fair. All the women staff at the jail also made some kind of fun for him to have money when he hit the streets. I'll try to find the link. Weird, it's almost like inmates are people too. Especially ones in there for small sentences. This is a jail. Mostly small crimes, misdemeanors. Why would they take his gun and jet it? Just because they're offenders doesn't mean they're soulless. Most people driving on the road would just speed by or rob a neck if they saw a collapsed deputy. Yeah, and not to detract from their good deeds, but were non-violent offenders who were probably nearing the end of their sentence considering they were let out to work in public. It would be insane to risk life in prison at that point. Yeah, you're right. But I'm sure that wasn't on all 6 of their minds at the time. I'm not saying they didn't do it out of the goodness of their heat. I have no reason to believe they were anything but upstanding, non-violent guys. I'm just saying it would take a special kind of stupid to decide to leave him to die, steal his gun and car, and become wanted fugitives, when they would be out anyway in a couple of months at most. They deliberately only put people who have no reason to risk it on work details like that. They were in county jail, not prison. They were on the work team. That means most of these guys were in for minor offenses. There is no need to steal a cop's gun and escape when you're in, because you couldn't pay your speeding tickets. A lot of time these work details are a reward for good behavior for people who have almost no time left and are deemed super low flight risk. They obviously don't tell them where they are going, so no outside people can hide stuff for them in the grass, but it's pretty chill most of the time. The guards will let them swim sometimes. I remember one time they came and helped with a community event which was a canoeing on a small slough I was at. They were joking around with people, lifting kids into canoes. It was really awesome to see. I have worked extensively with recently released men experiencing homelessness and it really is eye-opening. The majority are there because of drug or mental health symptoms. They are not evil people. It's almost as if prisoners aren't automatically a bunch of pieces of it just because they got caught committing a crime. I have a real issue with this title. They could have done a lot of things. Just because they're serving time doesn't mean they're uncontrollable animals that will take any opportunity to do a dastardly deed. Much of the US prison and jail population are non-violent and are victims of circumstance more than anything. What they did was a good thing. They helped another person. But I agree with you. In most circumstances, to even be on work detail you can't have a violent crime or bad behavior on your record. They are just people who made a pool decision who want to serve their time and leave without causing any more trouble. Not all criminals are evil murdering crazy people. They could have taken his gun and fled. Yes, but they're in work release. They're probably low security and low risk inmates to begin with. Mass murderers and serial rapists don't usually get to leave the confines of the prison. Just because someone committed a crime doesn't necessarily mean they are it people all the time. Non-violent offenders. Not to downplay the extremely good deed they did, but if it were some real hardened criminals this may have ended differently. Thankfully I don't think they let criminals like that out for work detail. Props to those guys for being decent human beings. Could have taken his gun and fled. If you're on a work detail, you're probably not the kind of person to do that. Work details are pretty much only for low risk non-violent offenders only.